Hey everyone, before we start the show, I just want to get some plugs out of the way. If you enjoy this podcast and you're into wrestling, check out the Nerds and Marks podcast or Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling. If you're not getting your fill on movie and entertainment discussion, then check out the Entertainment Buffet podcast. If you want to dive into the world of video games, I highly recommend the Darkcast by my friends over at darkstation.com. Listen to them cover important topics and interview men and women from all over the industry. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome to Shelf Podcast episode 15. So this is the episode that is actually going to be Halloween 3D, which we were supposed to do last week, but my guest was sick. But we got to sit down this week and talk about what would have been the third Rob Zombie Halloween movie. I think it was a really interesting conversation. I really enjoyed talking about this one. It's a very different Halloween movie. We've definitely seen like bits of this in previous Halloween movies, but never one that tried to tackle it the way this one did. And whether you see it as a success or fail, it's still a really interesting read for a Halloween fan. I was never a huge fan of slasher movies, but the original two Halloween movies and the first Rob Zombie remake are ones that stick with me. I actually really enjoy those as much as I'm not a fan of slasher movies. Those are some of the originals and that one remake that it's hard to deny their staying power and just how fucking good they are. I mean, I watch them. They're always on TV during the Halloween season, so I always end up seeing them every year. But I really enjoy them, and I really enjoyed this episode and talking about Halloween 3D with Vinny, my returning guest, who's kind of my go-to for the horror movies. You should know that by now. And don't forget to check out his horror-themed clothing line, The Cryptic Closet, and you can find them at thecrypticcloset.com and on Instagram at The Cryptic Closet. Some really great stuff. They have a lot of really great pins, too, as well, for those pin collectors. But yeah, so we're just gonna jump right into the episode. So today is Halloween 3D with my guest Vinny. So I'm just trying to get my notes in order. I had to look over them because it's been so long since I read it. I'm already reading 2 other scripts for my next shows.
It was pretty, just some parts I liked about it and some parts I was just,
I was pretty interested from the beginning, but
I mean, it was fun to read, you know. It was definitely something that, I mean, I get sucked in by pretty much anything that's Halloween, you know. Anything Michael Myers. But there were some parts that I did like that kind of gave an homage to the originals.
Yeah, which I feel like you kind of have to. So I saw the first Rob Zombie Halloween movie. I never saw the second one.
Okay.
Everyone they came out in what, 2009, I think?
Or around there.
Because I think the first one was 2007.
2007, yeah.
And then so this script is dated 2009, so it came out the same year that Halloween came out. I assume it came out around October. That seems kind of like a no-brainer.
The first one did. It came out on Halloween weekend. Or the Friday before. But I don't remember the second one. The second one was kind of more of a flop.
Yeah.
If you remember reading the part about the white horse and the mom, that kind of ties into the second one.
I definitely saw trailers for the second one, and I didn't see it because everybody said it was bad. I didn't hear anybody really saying anything good about it.
It was the horror and the kills were really just gruesome and just fucking really gritty, and they were cool.
Yeah.
But it just, I think the plot and the parts of, there was some parts that just didn't make any sense, the ghost of the mom, which was one thing. But then there was
I heard
this
a lot of
white
complaints
horse.
about that.
Yeah, she was walking around with the horse, and it just felt like a concept that was just kind of forced in there that just didn't make any sense.
It didn't fit the tone or anything.
Right.
The most I know about the movie is I don't know if you know who the Angry Video Game Nerd is. He's this guy who does these video reviews of like old shitty Nintendo games and stuff online, and the whole characters he's like yelling and screaming all the time.
Oh, okay.
But he's like a huge movie guy, and he does like, I think I showed you on around Halloween, he does this Monster Madness series where every day in October he reviews another horror movie.
Yeah.
One year he like themes the years, and one year I think he did Sequel-a-thon or whatever, where he would just cover franchises, and he covered Halloween, so he did all of the Halloween movies. And this is kind of the only time I've seen anything from the second Rob Zombie Halloween movies. He specifically called out one moment where I think he's stabbing like a nurse or something. You're fine. And it's just like him pounding the knife into the ground just over and over.
Really
and it's like brutal. He stops and looks at her. They just gives it one more type situation. And I guess he says like a lot of the kills in that movie are pretty similar, just a little over the top.
Right, like the kills, I mean, that all was fucking worth watching alone. But, I mean, if you're looking at it for a good sequel, no.
I've always wanted to go back and watch it just because I do like the first one. I legit, like people... Oh, I feel like the general opinion of the first Halloween is people kind of shit on it because like, oh, why would you remake it? And then you remade it and it's kind of just the same movie again. I'm like, fuck it. It was very entertaining.
It wasn't the same movie.
It's the one thing pretty I will say. Similar, but it's different enough.
Yeah, in a sense, like the John Carpenter, like when John Carpenter did it, and he, you know, obviously he did the original and all that shit. Like the way he approached the whole movie was less is more.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't see as much in your face blood. Rob Zombie approached it in a like, I want to make Michael Myers fucking scary again. Because, I mean,
and he did. Like he's a beast in those Rob Zombie movies, and that's what makes me like him.
You get a little more of a backstory as to what him as a kid.
So the way I look at it is the original movie was Laurie's story. The Rob Zombie movie was Michael's story because it definitely follows Michael as a character more than anybody else in that story. Mm-hmm. And what I'll say about this script is it's kind of Laurie's story again, but from a different perspective. Where the first Rob Zombie movie was Michael's story, this Rob Zombie movie would have been Laurie's story. Mm-hmm. I don't know about the second one. I don't know.
The second one was like, I mean, it was fucking weird, dude. I can't even really say.
I know it straddles the lines of like playing with her sanity, and that's something that this script kind of continues.
They pretty much, for this one, it was like Laurie was.
It was like
the other Michael Myers.
Yeah, let's turn her into
Robin
Michael Myers.
To his Batman. You know what I mean?
Which was kind of an interesting idea because if you think about Halloween, it's always just been Michael Myers. And the one time they kind of deviated from it with Halloween 3, although nowadays people say it is a great movie. I've never seen it. That it is like a good standalone horror movie. That it's like, oh, once you lose Michael Myers, you kind of lose the appeal of it. And they've kind of toyed around. I think, was it Halloween 4 where the little girl is kind of like, they've definitely toyed around with the idea of doing things like tied to the family. But this is kind of the most extreme case of that.
I mean, they were starting to do that in part 4 where it seemed like the niece was going to take over for Michael Myers. And then part 5 came and then they changed the whole ending completely and made it seem like she was running from him again. Yeah. Like, the thing is, I don't know if I've ever seen 5. Yeah, I have. So I'll let you borrow it.
Is 6 the, like, thorn curse thing with Paul Rudd? Yeah. So I don't think I've ever seen 5.
That one was not that great. As they kept going, I don't know.
Although I do like H2O.
So I was reading this, and I'm a fan of the whole making Laurie kind of crazy because I think anybody in that situation would naturally just go fucking insane.
I'll say it's a new direction for the series that we haven't really seen before. But again, it becomes a problem where Michael Myers is kind of a background character.
Yeah. But the thing is, I mean, if you really look back on just Halloween fans, the theory of Laurie being crazy has been going on since.
Is that a thing?
The original.
Okay, so that's something
people have been pretty much waiting for Jamie Lee Curtis to kind of
flip
turn, you know.
So I have my history with Halloween. I don't know yours. It's one of the first horror movies I ever remember seeing. It probably isn't. Like I think Child's Play I saw pretty young, but it was definitely the first movie that scared the shit out of me as a kid.
No,
that music.
Just the simplicity of it. John Carpenter like nailed that in the sense that when I say less is more, exactly like I said, the simplicity is just like goes along with the
thing is, I think I've seen Halloween 2 more as a kid because I definitely remember the hospital and the ending of Halloween 2 way more than I remember seeing the first one.
Those two are my fucking favorite. I like part 3. It doesn't stand. Side note, when I was saying that they kind of not their, I feel like they paid respects to the old ones in the sense that they did something that Rob Zombie didn't do in the other ones. Like they mentioned Silver Shamrock, which is from the third one. You know what I mean? Like the masks and all that shit.
Yeah,
they kind of tied it all in
was.
together. And even the part where Desmond there's a gentleman named Desmond. You'll learn about it later on in the podcast, but he's about to get killed, and there's a part where he sees somebody dressed up with just a white sheet and a pair of glasses,
which happened in
the original.
Which I think Rob Zombie did in the remake as well.
Yeah. The only thing I felt is like when I was reading this, I did feel like when this was coming out, I did read that a lot of the original actors who were in it and actresses weren't coming back.
Oh, really? So the girl who played Laurie and everything?
Right. Scout Taylor Compton, when I was reading this, I just kept picturing her face because she is such a. That's regardless if you like the first or second one.
Yeah,
she was fucking great. She had that.
All
that
the
look.
cast in the Rob Zombie movies were really good.
Yeah, but she did a fantastic job of going from the innocent, happy girl to then slowly kind of transforming into like this edgy, just like rebellious teenager, and like because part 2, if you watch it,
I really do want to watch. Do you own the second one?
Yeah,
I want to borrow that.
Yeah, she flips the script completely, and you kind of get an appreciation of her character because you see how much it's all affecting her for the worst, Yeah. And this is like it all connects. Like when I read this one, I just kept picturing. I'm like, if she wasn't. Like, let's say they were to
if it was a different
and
actress,
she wouldn't have been the one to play Laurie. It just wouldn't have made any sense because she kind of was made for this role in this third one.
Is she doing anything now? Like, has she done anything beyond the Halloween movies?
She does a couple indie horror movies. I mean, I follow her on social media, but she hasn't done anything like big as far as horror movies go.
Yeah.
But I know she does like horror conventions and a lot of that.
Oh,
shit.
okay.
Same with Danielle Harris, who was actually she was in the original. She played the friend, but she was also the niece in 4 and 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, you know way more about this stuff than I do, because for me, Halloween was one of those ones I stayed away from for a long time because it scared the fuck out of me. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I became an adult that I learned to appreciate the movies, and I can probably count on one hand how many times I've seen the Rob Zombie one, the first one. But yeah, the original 2 I've seen multiple times at this point. But we've talked so much about it, but we haven't even talked about the details of the script. And I love that the beginning is kind of like the opening to a Fast and the Furious movie.
Yeah, it's just so much shit going on.
It's so action-packed for the first 20 or 30 pages.
I had to reread it at least fucking twice to make sure I got everything because I felt like there were parts that I just... it's easy to read it, but then it's like what the person who was writing it was envisioning in their head was probably so fucking chaotic.
So Rob Zombie wrote the first 2, right?
Right.
So this is the first one that would have not been written by him, which I didn't recognize the author. He's definitely reading it. I mean, this is probably pretty common with a lot of horror scripts, but just in the writing, the things he would write. And I've heard people make fun of scripts like this. Where like, oh, this girl that was so hot, and she fucking is just like writing like a total bro about some stuff.
Yeah, and some things, some of the wording in there.
Yeah.
Side notes. I was like, I don't know if this is like for humor's sake or.
I've always heard talk that in the script for the Entourage movie, there's a line where. Like one of the characters in the movie tells a girl she has a perfect ass, and in the script it says it is and that's just kind of what I picked up reading this thing is like this guy is such a fucking sleazebag, and maybe it's just because he's writing a horror movie, because that is the general tone of a slasher movie. That's the slasher tropes of people who have sex or get naked.
He calls the girls in the end like sexy. It's like he'd sound like a total dude who just wanted to fucking write. Movie.
But it's hard to tell if that's just how he is, or if he was writing it specifically because it's a slasher movie.
Before we go into it, did you say this was written in 2009?
Yeah, that's what the date on the script was.
Because was this really going to be a part 3, or was this originally
from everything I've read is that this was going to be like the next in line for Rob Zombie's movies, because it literally picks up at the end of Halloween 2 with them in the shed.
It was just weird that it came out like it was written literally right when the second one came out.
You got to imagine the second one came out in 2009, so it was probably at least written in 2007 or 2008.
But I'm just thinking, because Rob Zombie, I'm pretty sure it was 2008 because he wasn't going to do any more Halloweens.
Was he not going to do it?
He was done. That was the only one he was going to do. And then
the first one?
Money to where they offered him, good money to do the second one. He did it, but it felt like he didn't do it because he genuinely wanted to. He just wanted the money, which is why it kind of fell short. This one almost felt like I almost
it definitely
like
feels like a studio was making the decision and was like, here, write
just
the
wanted
script.
To fucking complete the final thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they knew where they wanted the story to end, but Rob Zombie didn't want to keep going.
But I mean, it ends on a major cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, we'll get there, but the ending I have some issues with.
Yeah, it's like every fucking Halloween movie.
Yeah. But yeah, the beginning of the movie literally is like just action scene, because it's her in the shed and she's basically completely lost it. Like she thinks she's stabbing Michael in the face.
But it's Dr. Loomis.
Yeah, it's Dr. Loomis, and basically they're like, oh, we need to get her to a hospital, and as they're taking her to a hospital, like Michael saves her and she just joins up with him, as in like, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do because he's just there. Like I never really understood why she felt like she had to do it, just because her family's so fucked up that she assumes that's her fate.
Towards the end of part 2 is almost like just like a dark.
Yeah, so is that stuff kind of touched on?
She was slowly being overcome by the darkness. It felt like, you know, like she was becoming more and more just dark, you know, whether it be her character, the way she dressed, like she was going down that road. So it made sense when you read this and you watch, I mean, even if you don't watch the full movie, watch like the last 30 minutes and you'll see her character kind of transform into the person that we see in the beginning of the script.
Okay. Maybe I really should have watched this movie then.
But what's cool is, I mean, I like the fact that they didn't make her go full like villain. You know what I mean? Like she's
not
got
right
parts
away.
where she fucking seemed like a normal person.
Yeah.
You know?
And throughout the script, it's definitely her struggling with it. Like there are definitely times where she's just like, I'm just going to kill somebody or whatever. But then there are times where she shows regret. She doesn't want to be doing this. Like she doesn't want Michael to be around. But then when he is, it's just like she can't help herself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is kind of an interesting idea. But I just feel like it's a little too back and forth for me that I can never really tell what she actually wants to do.
Yeah.
And so we do get introduced to our kind of new main character right in the beginning, which is Amy. And it's like her and a bunch of friends hanging out in a graveyard. And then Michael just shows up and murders all of them. And I will say a lot of the deaths in this are pretty gruesome, which I guess keeping in tone with Halloween 2. Because like thinking back to the first Rob Zombie movie, there's nothing like over the top that I remember, but it's definitely like he is stabbing people and sticking them to walls and stuff like that. And he is just overpowering people. But
you know what scene really sticks out to me in the remake of the first Halloween is as a little kid when he beats the shit out of that guy with a stick and leaves him dead in the woods. Like something like, and it's something like that simple, and all he had was a fucking clown mask.
Yeah.
And something that subtle, it was like you got creeped out by him as a child.
Yes.
It's like you kind of grow to actually see why people are so fucking
and that's something that's kind of lost in this script. Like Laurie's not scary, Michael's not scary. It feels like an action movie.
There's one part that did seem cool that I liked. They were explaining at one point they unmask him and they said part of the mask looked like it was melted onto his face. You couldn't tell where the mask started or where the
I actually really like that idea. So one thing I liked about the Rob Zombie movies is there was never really nothing supernatural about him. He was just really big, really strong. So it's believable that he could take a gunshot or something like that. And he never gets hit somewhere. I mean, I guess, isn't there multiple endings to the first one? Isn't there one where she shoots him and then one where he's just like disappears, kind of like in the original movie?
Yeah, and the one where she shoots him and like he fucking the blood all over her.
Yeah. I don't know which one is considered the true ending to that movie.
There's a few different parts because I feel like there's even a different intro to the movie.
Really? For the first one?
Yeah, because I had it on a screen copy of the movie.
Yeah.
That came out, I want to say a week or so before the movie released because I was like super
I do remember that one.
On watching it. I watched it and it was like perfect quality. It was killer. Awesome. Yeah. But there was still a big part of me as a fanboy that wanted to go see it in theaters. So I wanted to go see it in theaters and it was different.
Really?
Like the beginning, just like the intro. A little different. The ending was still the same, but there's an alternate ending on the first one. You know, it's been a long time since I've watched it.
Yeah, so I guess, him taking a gunshot to the face, theoretically could survive that. But I guess that's kind of the only moment where it's like, he clearly died and should not have come back.
Right.
But, yeah, and like, in the second one, do they show him die? He gets shot a bunch, right?
Yeah. Dude, I have to rewatch.
Yeah, honestly, like I said, I've never seen it.
The Rob Zombie Halloweens isn't like I can tell you about the fucking originals, but the Rob Zombie ones, I mean, the first one I have it's more fresh in my head, but the second one was like not something that
probably one people have seen the least. But yeah, so in the beginning they're escaping in an ambulance, and then it's Michael gets in there and it's all crazy, and the ambulance blows up. And so this was written as a 3D movie because 2009 was when Avatar came out. So 3D was the big thing. And in the script, there are a lot of moments where like, oh, a head's thrown in our face or whatever, you know, which is kind of interesting. I never read a movie that was specifically supposed to be like a 3D gimmick movie. Mm-hmm. So it is interesting to see that stuff written on the page. Mm-hmm. Just like I've never read a musical and I have the script for La La Land. I want to look at it just to know, like, are the songs in the script, you know, or is it just like insert song here? So it is interesting to hear that stuff. But yeah, so we get this huge like out of control action scene in the beginning, and this is where we get introduced to Amy, our main character, and then we get a 1 year or a 2 year time jump.
It's a year. It's not even a year. It's 362 days.
So it's like a couple days before Halloween, and Amy and Laurie are both in the same mental institution, which would never happen.
But like, keep in mind also, Amy almost died.
Yeah.
What happened? They were in the cemetery and they seen Laurie and they were teasing her as to why the fuck are you here? You know.
Yeah.
Come to realize that.
And then Michael kind of like Myers, looms behind them type situation.
Yeah, they were like.
Or no, they're digging up the
mom's body, and then they see them there, and then.
Which that was an idea I liked. The idea of him. Like bringing his family together with the mom's corpse was a much cooler idea than him seeing visions of her in the second one. I actually did like that idea.
If you look at the Rob Zombie, the first one, I mean, those three seem to be the closest. I mean, even when he killed his dad, he was outside with the baby, waiting for his mom to come home. You know what I mean? So it was always him, Laurie, and the mom, or him, Angel, and the mom.
Angel. So was that the case in the original John Carpenter movies? Was it Angel as well, or was that a Rob Zombie thing?
I don't fucking remember. I don't feel like
that ever came up in the older ones.
I smoke a lot of weed and I watch movies, horror movies. So
yeah, I mean, I assume that's just kind of a Rob Zombie thing, but
yeah, but so they see them in the cemetery and they don't know what the fuck's going on. Keep in mind,
he's like in the grave,
but they only see Laurie.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they get closer and it's like Amy, her boyfriend, her friends. They get closer, realize that they're digging up the body and that it's Michael Myers.
Yeah.
The boyfriend ends up getting killed. He
gets his head cut off with a shovel.
And they put him in the fucking coffin.
Somehow she ends up in the coffin and he ends up like on top of, or no, she falls.
He was in there first.
Yeah.
Without the head, and then
she gets thrown in, and then the lid gets thrown down on her, and I guess they kind of bury her, or no, he throws like gravestones on top of it.
And
I think
almost tries to get her buried alive.
Yeah,
the cops
so she's stuck in this coffin with her boyfriend's dead body just like oozing blood all over her. Like there's some legitimately good gruesome moments in the script, like multiple times throughout the script. I did really like that moment, and as crazy and over the top as the beginning is, I do really enjoy it. There's a couple weird moments where her and Michael are traveling together, and then the cops catch up to them, and Michael suddenly disappears, and then he reappears. And
it was kind of hard to follow. Like you mean like when they were like that sewer?
Yeah, they're in like a sewer, and then she's by. So I guess the cop, is that her like adoptive father?
Goodman,
or it's
no,
it's I have his name somewhere here.
No, he's the dad of her best friend.
Brackett.
I want to say that's the best friend's dad.
Oh, okay. Because he seemed kind of like a father figure to her in the script.
Yeah, he's the one who Danielle Harris's character.
Yeah,
her father. I want to say.
Okay.
Was that so? It was
like so he was like close to her, but
right.
Yeah, and then Michael just basically kills all the cops except for Brackett's the one who kind of keeps slipping away. Mm-hmm. And then this eventually leads to the ambulance and where everybody starts getting fucked up there. Like I'm trying to think, the ambulance like it basically tips over or hits somebody.
They hit Laurie.
Yeah, Laurie gets hit. I thought she died because like she basically comes running out of the woods as the ambulance is taking Amy, I think.
Yeah, because she just booked it. Once Michael Myers was killing all them in the sewer, she fucking booked it.
Yeah, and she just gets run down by this ambulance. So the ambulance stops, and that's when Michael shows up and starts like killing the driver, and Amy's in the back, and then Brackett comes up and I think he shoots Michael.
Yeah,
and then
nothing happens.
Yeah, and then Laurie ends up killing Brackett. And it's implied later that she was kind of like hallucinating and thought he was Michael.
She didn't think it was him.
Yeah, because she's just kind of losing her mind. And then we get our time jump to a year. And yeah, Goodman is the cop that helps save Amy, and then it's implied that they've become close over this year. And then we learn more
He's almost like the new Dr. Loomis.
Yeah, and he was a really good character. I liked him. They imply that he's a little crazy because he keeps the cremated remains of Michael's mom on his desk. But
in the end, you kind of get a good idea as to why. It's almost like The Undertaker. It's like you have slight control.
Yeah.
You have that one thing over him that at any moment you can make him vulnerable to you.
Yeah, because at this point, everybody assumes Michael's dead because the ambulance gets blown up and Michael's inside it, and we get our little 3D gimmick of seeing him inside as the fire engulfs it. And then it's kind of like, cut to black, probably cut to a title at that point.
Yeah, and that's when it was like the 362 days later. Yeah. Everybody thought he was done and he was dead. And now Laurie, everybody's pretty much in like a mental institution.
Yeah, Laurie and Amy are in the same mental institution.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, which is... I thought a mental institution was a good setting for a Halloween movie. I can't recall a mental institution playing a major role in any other Halloween movie.
There was a couple. I'm trying to think of the exact. I want to say.
But was it like a prime location or one they? Because most of the movie takes place in this mental institution. Like it reminded me of how Halloween H2O mostly took place in the school.
I want to say, fuck. No, it's not.
Because 4, I think, is they're transporting him out of a mental institution, right?
It's the one where there's one where it opens up in a mental institution. That's where Jamie Lee Curtis dies.
That's where Resurrection, isn't it? With Busta Rhymes, and then he goes home.
But I almost feel like
I didn't see that one, but I want to say
it's when
it was
Jamie Lee Curtis
Resurrection
is at the top, and then
he kills her.
Yeah, she kisses him and he lets go of her.
Which was super crazy because, again, I've never seen Resurrection, and that was the one that same guy who does those reviews or whatever, he reviewed it, and obviously that being in the first 10 minutes of it, and a major thing, like, hey, they killed Jamie Lee Curtis in a Halloween movie. Like, it was a big deal, and I didn't know that until I saw that review.
Me, personally, as a fan, I will choose Resurrection over H2O.
Really?
H2O has some parts that, as a kid, it was back in the day, I was like fucking 13, 14. I liked it, but watching it now as a
really, I haven't seen it in a long time.
The horror fan that I am now, I feel like there were a lot of cooler parts and a lot of. I don't know.
I just can't get past the found footage and Busta Rhymes martial arts fighting Michael Myers at the end.
Yeah, I mean, just like I can't get used to fucking LL Cool J trying to go up against Michael Myers. Yeah, he was the fucking security guard
in H2O.
H2O, yep.
I don't know, but that's just a security guard trying to fight him.
Yeah. But
I haven't seen it in a long time. Maybe it doesn't hold up to my memory.
I mean, it's fun to watch. It's fucking more fun to watch than Halloween 2, Rob Zombie.
Yeah. So we also get introduced to these other characters in the mental institution, Kat and Gina, who are two just crazy fucking friends of Amy's, and basically they all hate Laurie. Like Laurie, she's the
outcast. She's a fucking crazy. Yeah. Nobody knows the one. Nobody wants to talk to her because they just think she's a psychotic bitch, which I mean she kind of is.
And we're opening up, and Amy's getting out. But as she's on her way out, she sees Laurie and loses her fucking mind and attacks her because
why the fuck? That was the first time they had seen each other in a year, and the last time she did, she was about to get murdered by her. So it's like, yeah, I think it was a good introduction to the characters.
Yeah, and I like the new character of Amy. Like as far as like this is one of the first Halloween movies where we're getting introduced to a completely brand new character who's not related to like the Strode, that's Laurie Strode, like not related to them in any way. She's not a Myers, blah blah blah. It's just, I mean, I guess as far as the Rob Zombie movies, because some of the other movies definitely had characters that didn't really relate.
Yeah, Paul Rudd.
Yeah. Which is weird because I remember kind of liking that movie when it came out, and then you go back and watch it later.
I thought so too because I just remember them running around the hospital, and then finding that fucking syringe. And
have you seen both cuts of them? Like, have you seen the producer's cut or whatever?
You know what? After seeing that first one, I didn't want to see any of them.
Have you seen the comparisons of it, like the way it ends and stuff?
No,
it's so bad. Yeah, it's worse. I'll point you to the review that the guy, he talks about both versions and what's different. It's so crazy. Like that's one of the things that this podcast is based on, is just like, this is what that movie could have been, and that version actually was filmed and exists out there, and it's just so different. And like the ending is just like he performs a ritual and they just walk out of a hospital and Michael Myers is just like standing there like a statue. Like it's really fucking weird.
See that
both versions are a mess.
So fucking weird.
Yeah,
that movie shouldn't have been.
No, it was a huge fuck up from the very beginning. But yeah, so we get our first reintroduction to Michael, who he kind of looms in the beginning. Like, we get these two guys working at a Halloween store, and he just shows up and kills them and gets a new mask. Which, why do they always just have the same mask?
It's just one.
Yeah, and like
there's only one left.
Yeah, you would think if a killer, like a widely known serial killer, it was like in Scream, like you have a widely known serial killer who's known for using a particular mask. Why would you sell that? For one, it just seems wildly disrespectful to everybody they murdered.
I worked at Fantasy Costumes for a couple years, and my best friend worked there when this clown shit was going on.
Yeah.
For a while, I feel like there were people who were stopping and like banning clown masks and shit. You know?
Oh, when Fantasy, the whole clown thing was going on?
They sold a shit ton during that time.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's like you think about that, there's a serial killer who's out there with that mask, and it makes sense because maybe everybody thought he was dead, and they said that mask was discontinued, and there was only one left. So
I guess I do say that.
But yeah, it's always funny how he somehow finds his way. Same with Jason, finds a
way to get a mask.
I personally think he would have looked way cooler with the fucking half burnt mask and the
I really love that scene when they describe that. So we get introduced to Desmond, who's one of the orderlies. That the script tells us that he's fucking Laurie. But as far as like, if you were to actually, so like we know it because we read it, and the script literally says he's been fucking Laurie. But the only kind of hints you get it in the actual movie is they say that she like rubs his hand as she walks by and stuff like that. Or no, I guess she does have a dialogue.
She even said, "I'll miss
fucking you." Yeah, which none of that really makes sense. Like we don't get any reason why they're fucking.
It might be just a Rob Zombie thing, dude. Like sometimes it's just like he throws in extra like things that are just to make you feel uncomfortable.
But he didn't write this. Is the thing.
I know, but I'm saying they're trying to keep the vibe of a Rob Zombie. You know what I mean? Like
somebody who's trying to be Rob Zombie when he's not Rob Zombie.
Right. They're like, we got to throw in some kind of gritty piece of shit character. So let's get this guy who's going to
which he doesn't actually seem like that big of a piece of shit. Like, yeah, he's fucking a patient, which is not good, and he has a girlfriend, but it's like he doesn't do anything horrible. He's not like the orderlies in the first movie who are like abusive to Michael.
You know? Like he was just the scummy dude. Never really gave you a reason to hate him.
Yeah.
But he was just a scummy dude.
Yeah. But yeah, I just feel like generally a character like this, they like, oh, you want this guy to die. And it's like he's one of those characters who, when he gets introduced, you're like, oh, he's going to die. But you never really feel like it's deserved other than just like you need a body count.
You know, but then there's a part where he's talking to Goodman. Yeah. And Goodman tells him, he's like, do you really think that Michael's going to let you get away with what he's done? And
what you've done to his little sister?
What he does to that dude is fucking amazing.
That's actually one of the better scenes of the script, actually, is so Goodman eventually goes to Desmond's house just trying to get information about Laurie and stuff like that. And then, like, as he's leaving, he's like, oh, by the way,
how
like,
long have you been fucking Laurie?
Yeah. And the dude's like, his girlfriend's in the room or whatever. He's like, dude, come on, shit. And they like go outside to talk. And then literally as Goodman is leaving,
he leaves
Michael,
his phone.
Yeah, he forgot his phone there. And Michael kills, Crystal is the guy, Desmond's girlfriend name.
Yeah, so basically, there's all this weird shit. The back door's open, so Goodman leaves. Desmond goes back into the house, realizes Goodman left his phone.
Yeah.
So he grabs the phone. Then all of a sudden he sees the back door is open.
Yeah.
That's where he sees the figure with the sheet over him and the fucking glasses.
Yeah.
Pulls it off, realizes it's a dummy.
Yeah.
Then his girlfriend, Crystal, whatever, she came out of nowhere and fucking scares him.
Dressed like a slut. Like, hey, we're going to fuck.
Yeah, and then as soon as she scares him and he's, the fucking cop realizes that he forgot his phone, comes back, she tells him, hey, the cop's here. I think, he wants his phone. So he goes, grabs the phone. Right as he's about to leave, Michael's behind her and fucking kills her.
Yeah.
Goes and then tries to fucking kill Desmond. And the way he kills him is like so awesome. Basically, there's a hot iron that's there and it's just fucking steaming. And he grabs the iron and puts it, kind of just manhandles him and puts it like he's about to burn his face off. And right when it gets like they explain it like it's right
like inches
like centimeters from his fucking eyeball, and then he decides to go lower to his crotch and just
burns his fucking crotch
shit
off.
Out of his dick with the fucking iron board. Then he
smashes his face. Which that's the thing. There's a lot more bludgeoning deaths from Michael in this than there are like stabbing deaths.
Yeah, this is like he's pissed off.
Yeah, multiple times is him just beating somebody's face in until there's just nothing left, which is kind of fun.
I mean, I feel like this movie should have just been made just for that one part because I would love to see how that would be.
Like I said, there's a lot of good kills in the script. It's kind of like the story parts that get at me. There's a line in this moment when he's talking to Goodman where Goodman's like, everybody always thinks he's dead, but he always comes back, which to me doesn't really make sense in this version because Halloween 1 and 2, do they take place like days apart, or is it a year later after Halloween in the second one? But basically, Michael hasn't been implied dead that many times in this version.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of time from the time that she got taken from the that she got taken to the ambulance from, the bludgeoning and all this shit at the end of part 1. And then I feel like sometime
there is like a time jump. Yeah,
it's like a few months, like maybe even a year at most. But she's she's still around the same age, but she's a lot more. You can see she's wearing like rock t-shirts. She has like a Manson poster. She's kind of going to the dark side and shit.
So it's not like technically this is like the 11th Halloween movie or something like that, but in reality it would only be like the 3rd. So it definitely feels like a comment on the legacy of the Halloween series.
Right.
But it doesn't make sense like as far in as this series
being part 3. Right?
Yeah, like being the reboot series. But yeah, lines like that, like I definitely noticed things like that, like they're trying to comment on the legacy, but I don't know. So yeah, I mean, there's kind of not a whole lot. Like I'm kind of looking at my notes trying to just piece together, because it's been a little while since we've read this. I'm just trying to piece together the script, and not a lot happens, and a lot of it is just Michael is kind of just hanging out, and it's not until the day like of Halloween that he
Halloween
really
fucking party that they're planning. Basically, what they find out is that how they start realizing that something's going on is there's all these killings that are happening, and they're all very random, and they think they have nothing to do with each other. But I think it was Goodman who started pinpointing where these murders are going, and they say that the killings start forming a spiral, and the spiral in the end ends
is
right
leading
at the
right to the mental hospital.
So they know, he pretty much knows or has a good idea as to where Michael Myers will be on Halloween night.
Yeah, but everybody else is just like, oh, you're crazy. He's dead. Right. Like, why are you still worrying about this? There's like one cop that has his back. And do you remember the doctor's name? I can't believe I didn't take a note on this.
Kibney or some shit.
I can't believe. So she's basically Amy's like psychiatrist. Kibner. Okay, Dr. Kibner. So she's working with Amy, and we find out that her and Goodman are actually in a relationship. Yeah. So because they were both hurt. So Kibner
that was Josie who he was fucking.
Josie. Is it Josie Kibner? Oh, no, Kibner's like the guy leading the... Okay, Josie. So Josie was there the night of the ambulance incident, and she got cut by Michael, was it across her back. And Goodman got a cut like across his chest. Mm-hmm. And they talk about... So... Like he goes to visit Amy or whatever, and Amy gets really upset, and she's like scolding him as they're like walking into an office, and all of a sudden they just start undressing.
Yeah, he's like, they're talking to each other, and she's unbuttoning her blouse, and he's unbuttoning his pants.
It's like, these guys relate over being survivors of Michael Myers,
it turns into Swalloween.
Yeah. Which is interesting. I like her character, first of all. Like, she's one of the characters I did latch onto in the script. Like, I like the relationship with her and Amy. I really liked Goodman as a character. Like, there were good characters in the script, and those three in particular are kind of the ones I focused in on. Everybody else, like...
They were just background characters. They were there to kind of push the main characters. Like you said, those three were the three that stuck out besides like Laurie and Michael.
And even some of the background characters are okay. Like the crazy girls in the hospital, like they're a little much. They're like, a lot of the things they say are just for shock value. Like one of them is always wanting to fuck older orderlies or some shit like that.
Something like vagina, like haircuts or some shit, right?
Yeah.
She wanted to get a heart, and the other one's like, I'm gonna grow it to fucking drags in the ground.
Yeah. So it's just like weird, a lot of weird stuff coming from them.
Okay, somebody really wanted to be Rob Zombie.
Yeah, because like they have a scene where they're like in the showers, and all of a sudden their clothes disappear, and they think like Michael's there. And then it really just turns into like that scene I didn't get. It just nothing happens. Like they go looking, they're all like wrapped in towels and walking around.
I got confused there because I didn't know if they were all having like some kind of fucking
it doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't know if it felt like they were all having like some kind of illusion or some.
It's
kind
like
of crazy...
a group hallucination. Almost.
Yeah, I didn't know because I felt like. It seemed like up to that point only Amy was having that, and then all of a sudden when they were all going through, I'm like, okay, Michael's about to kill them all.
There actually is a good scene because Amy's having hallucinations where she's in her like room
in the closet,
and it looks like Michael's standing in the closet, and then she turns on her lights, and it's just like some hanging clothes and like something that matches like a white mask. I'm like, that's cool. That's like a cool vision, and you can imagine seeing that in a movie and being kind of freaked out. I wish there was more stuff like that in the script. Like, as much as they try to play with the psychological aspect of the script, I wish they went a little farther.
Right.
Because that's one of my favorite type of horror movies, is psychological horror. Like, and that's why I like the Silent Hill video games so much, because that's where I haven't seen it. I really need to fucking see that movie.
Talk about psychological.
Yeah, and that's what I always...
You walk out of the theater still fucking figuring things out, putting things together.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if a lot of people know that about that movie. I think some people might assume like, oh, it's kind of like a white slasher movie. But like, I know in the trailers they hint at something that happened with his mom, and I assume that plays a big part into it. I really want to see that fucking movie. I'm waiting for it to show up at the Dollar Theater.
It comes out next month on DVD. May
Does
26th,
it? When they come out, there's a Dollar Theater like right by my house. They usually get those movies like right when they come out on Blu-ray. So, and me and my wife both want to see it in theater, so we might go see it for like $1. So that'll be nice.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, that's how we saw Taken 2, and that was $1 wasted.
Yeah, I know, dude. It's fucking Liam Neeson.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm trying to... Yeah, because it's always, like, throughout the whole middle of the script, it's just kind of a lot of...
filler, pretty much.
Yeah, with Laurie in the hospital and Amy in the hospital and this Josie character, and just like, oh, they hate each other, but they need to get along, and... Like, Laurie, like, apologizes to her, which should be, like, a big moment, but is kind of just... It
almost seems like a half-ass. It's like you don't know what to believe because of all the shit.
Yeah. But then, like, she apologizes to her, but then they hug, and then she's like, my brother's coming here, and he's going to fucking rip your head off.
That was my favorite fucking line.
Really?
It was, like, when she held her close and she whispered in her ear, she's like, Michael's here, and he's going to cut you from your mouth to your fucking cunt.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. That was
more
so
of
fucking
that.
brutal.
Like... That is the moment that like feels like a Rob Zombie moment.
Yeah, like when that happened, I was like, God damn, dude. Like, if there was any part of this movie that I want to be made, it was like I wanted to see it for this moment in the movie. That when that happened, and just like you knew shit was gonna hit the fan. I mean, because shortly after, we find out that Goodman and Josie are fucking. After they fuck is when you get an idea that it's happening, because she looks at Goodman and based on the way he's talking to her, she's like, he's really here. Right? Yeah. Like, you know, and he's like, yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
You know, like she was the first one besides Amy to believe that he was still alive.
Yeah. And so he has a plan. So he took like some C4 from the police lockup, and he's like, we know where he's going to be.
And we know that he wants his mom's ashes.
Yeah. Which, again, is a thing, like, I wish they did more with. Like, the thing with the ashes. But, like, we don't see Michael at all throughout this script. Like, it's a lot of, oh, he's in the bushes. Like, he's in the tree line. Like, imagine, like, isn't there a scene in the original where she looks out a window and he's, like, standing there or something, like, and then she looks back and he's gone. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of...
I feel like like, the cool part about that in the original is that it happened randomly. I feel like they kind of beat that into the ground with this one.
They do. It happens so often. It happened
once or, like, twice. 3 times at the very most.
Yeah.
Like, happened like 5, 6 times.
There's like 5 or 6 moments, even in the beginning, where they're just like, oh, Michael's in the tree line.
Yeah.
And like somebody follows him. Like, that's how like the first half of the script is done. And then he's just not there for a while. Then he shows up at the costume shop, he kills Desmond, and then he doesn't show up again until the end. It's like, oh, I think you see him once, and like he's like watching the hospital from the bushes, and that's all he does.
Yeah, I just feel like he's like a fucking creep.
Yeah, and he's just not much of a character. It's all about Laurie, which is fine, but they don't do anything with Laurie either.
No.
So yeah, I guess we kind of just get into the third act where everyone's kind of made it to the hospital. Goodman's there, Josie's there. This Dr. Kibner guy. So while he's looking for Josie, she was supposed to do some interview or whatever. So he takes the interview because she's nowhere to be found, and he's in her office talking on the phone doing the interview, and he's talking about Michael. Mm-hmm. And as he's talking about him, he's like, yeah, he comes out of the shadows behind him. Classic, Michael Myers moment. And he's just saying all this really terrible shit about. He's like, oh, he's just an idiot and blah blah blah. And
he wore a Halloween mask long enough to where he forgot who the fuck he was.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And then Michael just brutally murders him.
Yeah, doesn't he like stick his fucking head through a fish tank and like cuts his head off?
Yeah, he basically saws his head off with a broken glass, which is again cool. But they also say that the head is like, because it's 3D, because you're kind of watching them struggle through the fish tank, which is a good camera shot. Right. And then his head comes into it and he saws it off, and then the head is like floating in the water. But I'm like, it can't be floating in the water.
The water's gonna be coming out. It's broken.
Yeah, so that, I mean, unless they're trying to say like as the water's coming out, his head is still. But it didn't make sense.
I feel like the dude who wrote this was. I mean, if I can picture it, he's wearing a tap out shirt.
I totally fucking get that.
Like line haircut. He has a fade. And he loves Monster Energy drinks.
I actually have a note written in my notes that this guy seems like he's such a clever writer, but like only to himself.
A couple people, like when I was reading that, I was like, this guy's a fucking bag of douche.
Yeah, he was. There's a lot of moments in the writing where you're just like, oh, come on, man. I didn't look this guy up. I don't know what else he's worked on, but it might be worth looking into just to see what his volume of work is.
He looks like he sounds like he'd be one of the extreme dudes from Harold and Kumar.
Yeah.
In the gas station.
Yeah. Like fucking extreme cheddar. That's like my favorite part of that movie is when that guy yells extreme cheddar about the chips. Yeah, and like I write that Kibner's death is solid because it is a good death.
No, for sure,
and
for sure.
A lot of the ones in the movie are. So this eventually leads to Michael going to Amy's room. And I'm confused about the motivations for Michael because the assumption is he wants to get Laurie. Mm-hmm. So why is he going after Amy? Like, what's his goal with Amy is what I never understood.
I mean, from like the characters and what they were saying, it was almost like, well, you got in the way of it in the first place, so he wants to kill you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I guess.
There wasn't much. It was like, oh, well, he laid eyes on you, so he's going to kill you. You know, like there wasn't too much depth as far as what his motives were for killing them.
And like the whole thing is like the whole of this script takes place around a mental institution. And if their goal is to look at this from a more psychological aspect, a mental institution is the perfect place, the perfect setting for that. They should have explored it more. It was my biggest issue.
Yeah.
Like there should have been more of Michael and more of Laurie dealing with their mental issues. Like we get more of that in the first movie just because we follow Michael as a child to who he becomes.
I mean, it would be cool. I mean, I thought it was going to be leading to this, but I thought it would have been a cool twist to kind of find out that the mental hospital they were at was really the one that Michael
was at as a kid.
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that. That would have been really great.
Maybe one of them stumble upon a fucking file, and it's
because you got to think it's probably the same town, right?
Right, Haddonfield.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, that would have been a really cool idea, and I can't believe they didn't think of that. I didn't think of it either.
Like fucking find one of his masks from the fucking room. They used to have millions of them. You know, like. Or
like he goes into a storage room or something, and they have like a box labeled M. Myers, and he pulls it open, and it's got one of his masks in there.
Right, find a file of him, and just put a small twist. It was something
that would actually be really great.
Yeah,
and maybe this Dr. Kibner guy could have been, leading the center when Michael was there originally.
Right. Or he could have been a douchebag, and that leads to maybe he treated Michael like shit and didn't really take him seriously as a patient and just thought he was a fucking idiot, not really a killer. And that comes to why he really wants to kill him and give him such a brutal death.
Yeah.
Something like that, give a little more backstory, and it's so easy to tie that in.
They could have given all the orderlies backstory. Like maybe they were orderlies when he was there, you know? Like there was just so much opportunity there. And a lot of this stuff I didn't even think about till now, but that would have been a much better movie.
Right. I mean, it's easy to, I mean, like I said, when I was reading that, I thought that's what direction they were going to go into. And when they did it, I was a little disappointed because I'm like, that's an easy, like just to fucking intertwine. Like, oh, that was the same hospital that Michael was in. You know, like
that's a completely missed opportunity. But I mean, the end, it turns into the end of any Halloween movie. It's a basic slash fest. Like he's in the hospital. What I do like is these girls that were friends with Amy,
the
kind of
makeshift spears, and how fucking brutal and just badass they were.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty awesome.
I love that scene. Like, for one, it's three girls standing up to Michael Myers, who throughout this series of what would have been 3 films,
I feel like
is made out to be a beast.
That part would have really stuck out to like now, you know, like it's a lot of like women equality and like all that shit now.
And like women over the years have become like badass, like Mila Jovovich in the Resident Evil films and things like that. Like women in action, women in action films. I haven't seen that, but I know enough about it.
Yeah,
like women action stars have become like huge over the years, and that definitely because this was in the middle of that. That would have worked completely. And I could even picture somebody like Zoe Kravitz being one of these girls, like just super crazy, or any of the girls who were in the Mad Max movie.
That's true. Yeah.
Like any one of them. Yeah, because they're just like attacking and they're holding him off. They're like kicking his ass. And it isn't until Laurie interferes that he kind of gets the upper hand.
I mean, they get him down at one point. They use the makeshift spears are pretty much like a mop handle
with like a big kitchen knife taped to the end, which is awesome. And they all go through pretty brutal deaths. Like one, he grabs the broom handle and jabs it through her mouth, like out the back of her head. And they even describe her head landing and sliding down. And the other one, like one of them gets set on fire in kind of a lame way. I want to say there was like 4 girls, was it? Because then I think one gets thrown into the girl on fire and she also burns. And then the last one gets killed with a ceiling fan. Yeah,
the ceiling fan sounds awesome.
Yeah, but would a ceiling fan really be that powerful to slice somebody up?
If you get the heavy duty metal.
Yeah, if it was like a metal one, which they don't.
Depending on the speed.
Yeah, he doesn't really describe. I was like, yeah, maybe if it was a metal one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he just like grabs her and lifts her up into the ceiling fan. Which
just
is
a visual. I was like, wasn't she like still fucking circling around? Right?
Yeah. They like right after this scene, Amy and Goodman come into the room and like her body's swinging around and the other two are like
I feel like that was
smoldering.
made for 3D. Like,
yeah,
it was that part for sure.
Yeah, I really enjoy all the kind of action stuff at the end, and it's after that the rest of the ending is just so flat for me. Like the ending of this movie is really disappointing because it doesn't have an ending.
Yeah,
like they end up leading to there's like a party going on in town, like a festival or whatever, but all the patients in the hospital get broken out and they're all kind of running crazy, so the festival gets shut down, and this is where like the final battle happens. Like there's a stage up there, and Goodman
pumpkin
he has the stage. The stage has got a big pumpkin around it, and the mouth is kind of like the stage part. And he's up there and he's got the urn and he puts the C4 inside of it. And Laurie gets handcuffed to Amy. So she's kind of like beating the shit out of her while they're trying to lure Michael to the urn to set it off. And he ends up grabbing Goodman and like slicing open his gut basically. And like what happens is, I'm trying to remember the order of things. Yeah, Michael kills all the girls in the kitchen.
But then I got confused because then all of a sudden the C4 was strapped to him.
So basically, Michael just doesn't fall for it, and what he does is he takes the C4 out of the urn and shoves it into the gash in his belly. And so Laurie is... I'm just trying to remember the order of what happens with Laurie and Michael. So yeah, Goodman, like Amy is running to the stage, and he's like, Goodman's like, no, get the fuck away. Yeah, and they show that like Michael basically shoved the C4 into his gut, and he blows up, and the stage blows up, and Laurie ends up cutting her own hand off to get away from the handcuffs, and then she basically just pleads to Michael to kill her. Yeah. She's like, I can't.
Which really fucking bugged me because I felt like if you're really gonna put the spotlight on Laurie, make her become the next killer.
Yeah, she should have evolved. And Michael should have been officially killed because at this point we find out that he takes off his mask, and like we've been saying, his mask was melted onto his face, which is an awesome image. Because I guess one thing that is kind of a bummer is for the first time like ever they show you Michael's face in the second Rob Zombie movie, and he speaks.
They show his face in the first one.
Do they actually show it? It's usually. I mean, I know they show him as a kid.
No, they show his face as an adult, but it's like.
I mean, he kind of just looks like Rob Zombie.
No, this is like the original, like John Carpenter.
Oh, but it's like shadowed, right? Like she pulls off his mask.
You can kind of see him, but it was like after she stabs him in the eye with the fucking.
But in the second Rob Zombie movie, they just straight up show him, and he speaks to Loomis. We've never heard Michael speak before, aside from him being a kid in the Rob Zombie one. And yeah, that was kind of unheard of. And it's like, wow, really? Like we waited all this time for him to say one word, and it was just die to Loomis.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this one,
it didn't need to be said. Like, no, he's never said die to anybody who's about to fucking kill. Why did he have to say it?
I guess it's supposed to be implied that he has some hate for Loomis because of all the years they spent together, and I don't know. Like everyone has said, that second Rob Zombie movie just wasn't that great.
Yeah.
I want to watch it. I need to form my own opinion on that movie.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's worth watching, especially after watching this. I feel like maybe a couple things will fucking click in my head from this script and the second one.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I Michael Myers, she fucking chops off her hand, and he ends up killing her. She pulls the knife towards her.
Yeah, it's kind of like that hug moment. Like, we're gonna hug, and I'm gonna get stabbed.
And then from there, it's like
Michael kind of showing compassion in a weird way.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, it went from that to he kind of just fades into the background. You don't see him.
Well, I'm trying to think. Does Amy get? I think she gets kind of knocked out from the explosion, which is why I was trying to remember the order of things. If Laurie died before the explosion or after.
It was after the explosion.
It was? Yeah. Because in my notes, it seems like I have it after.
Yeah, it was after the explosion. Then it was just Laurie and Amy. And
yeah, because basically it's like the emergency vehicles show up, and Amy's like, they're sitting there and like, hey, it's kind of over or whatever. And then you see Michael in the distance, and like an ambulance drives by, and as it goes by, he disappears.
Yeah.
And it's just over. I'm like, really? Like, that's it? Like, how do you end a Halloween movie and you don't at least like fake a Michael Myers death?
That's what really bugged me, is like, it should have been like, oh shit, he's still alive.
Yeah.
I mean, for him to never die or even almost die, it was like, it just... There was at least one part in every fucking Halloween movie where he almost died, where you were like, okay.
Yeah, and they either write it off in the next one, because I think it was 4 ends with him being like shot and falling down a thing, and then they drop dynamite down it.
Or even H2O. That's when he gets caught by the car and he's stuck.
Yeah, and they cut off his head with the axe, and then in the next one you find out it was like the ambulance driver. Which I remember
watching H2O in theaters. I went with my uncles and my mom, and I was young. And I remember after that, I was kind of bummed out because I'm like, that was all the Halloween movies.
It was supposed to be the last one, but I guess it was so successful. They're like, well, let's find a way to bring him back.
Yeah, and then they found out it was actually a cop, and he fucked up his vocal cord so he couldn't even scream.
Yeah, which I do love the ending of H2O, like where she had like knowing that there's more coming after her. Or even if that would have been the end of it, I love that ending where she fucking just cuts his head off with the axe. I thought that was great.
But it was just, I felt like that's what it was lacking. Like a big part was just missing, and it was the actual part where you felt like Michael Myers was. Yeah, there was nothing that felt threatening to him, and that's what bugged me. Is that
he spends so much of the script as like a background character.
Yeah, and
Laurie doesn't do. Laurie kind of takes the center stage as the villain, but she doesn't do anything.
No, in the end, she fucking asks to die. It's like you build up this character to seem to be the second coming to Michael Myers, and then she asks to be killed. Yeah, it's like, so then why'd you even spend that time building her up? Yeah, you should have spent more time giving a little more backstory as to Michael Myers.
Yeah, like I definitely think there's some stuff in the script that does work, and I think if you expanded on those things more, you could have made a great movie that could have led to a great franchise. Right. Like we said, make Laurie the killer. Like, if you're going to get rid of Michael, make her the new Michael. Like, let's have a female killer for a while.
Give the fans what they want. People wanted to see that and see Laurie turn. And, I mean, it would be interesting just to fucking see it, I mean...
Yeah, see, even you telling me that there's always been fan theories for years, I've never heard any of that. So knowing that that's something fans would have been into, like I was into it just from reading the script and the idea of it. So knowing that that's something that's been out there before, like just do it.
Oh man, why am I forgetting his name from Eastbound and Down?
Danny McBride.
Yeah, Danny McBride. He's doing the new Halloween.
Yeah, they're doing a new one.
And the cool part is that this is taking place right after the original part 2.
Which I just read that somewhere. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I'm so fucking excited because, I mean, some people were like, well, he's Danny McBride, it might be a comedy. It's like, no, dude. No, you'd be surprised how many people who are in the fucking comedy genre of movies and have that kind of personality who are real horror fans.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, like, everybody always says, ooh, comedians can't do drama, but some of the best comedians have done drama better than anybody.
Again, Get Out was done by fucking Jordan Peele.
Robin Williams won an Oscar for Good Will Hunting, and he's a comedian, but that was one of the best dramatic performances that I've ever seen. The thing is, comedy is a lot harder than drama. It's a lot harder to make someone laugh than to make someone feel something. Right. And, horror and drama are not that far apart. Right. And, a lot of horror movies feature comedy, too. So putting someone of that caliber, and we all know he's a great writer. He's worked on series like Eastbound and Down and Principals, Vice Principals? Either way. He's done a lot, and he's in the new Alien movie. And he himself has said that, like, there's no jokes in that movie. Like, it is a straight-up horror film. So, like...
And, I mean, if anybody's interested in what's coming from Danny McBride, I highly recommend reading some articles because even from... the small little interviews that he's done, he sounds so serious about it, and it's so refreshing as a fucking horror fan to hear somebody want to give it justice, and he's giving it kind of like the feel that John Carpenter did. He said he wants to do the same thing, kind of pull a little back and make it less is more, almost like Beetlejuice, where he is the main character, but you don't see him as much. Yeah, but when it's like.
Yeah, and that's the way to do it. Like, it is definitely hard, like, to think about a new Halloween movie nowadays because, like, what do you do with a franchise that's been around for over 20 years and, like, almost everything's been done before? And honestly, you watch a lot of those Halloween movies, and a lot of the sequels are not that good. Like, anything past 3 is kind of like, you like it because you're a fan, but they're not good movies. It's like a bad movie you enjoy.
Fucking Killer Clowns from Outer Space, dude. I just watched it last weekend.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fucking bad movie that people love. And it's really hard to think of like how to breathe life into a franchise that old, but he's a guy I feel like who could do it. Yeah. And I didn't know it was going to be a sequel.
He's starting off the fucking perfect place, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if there's anything that's really going to catch people's attention, like part 2 was, I would say, the last
the first movie. 2 are the best Halloween movies.
Right. Like, if you go back,
they hold up today.
Yeah. 100%. You go back and you ask any true Halloween fan, like, what are your favorites? I mean, a lot of them do say 1 and 2. So what perfect place to start off then?
I'm not a big fan of slasher movies. Like, I can count on like 3 fingers how many slasher movies I like, and it's like Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and Scream. And those movies are great. They hold up. We watched them last October. Like, they were on TV. They were running a marathon of all those movies. So I think we saw like the first. They skipped 3 because they were only doing the Michael Myers ones. So I think we saw like 1, 2, 4, and 5, and I don't think we watched any of the other ones. But 1 and 2 were still great, like today. And knowing that it's continuing after 2, I didn't know that until recently. I thought it was just going to be a reboot. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, dude. I can't wait for that shit.
Yeah. And we still have another Halloween script to cover, which I think we might wait till around Halloween to do that one.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to like save both of them and like have to wait 2 years to cover both of these. So I'm like, we have, because this was after Rob Zombie's second movie, this was the next script. And then there's Halloween Returns, which was 2 years ago when it was written. I think it's dated 2015.
So was this going to be a whole new one, or what?
It was going to be a reboot, I think. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know much about it. There's less information out there for that one than there was for this one. But it was basically their most recent attempt. I don't know if it was, because I think it was because they're doing a new Friday the 13th and a new Halloween around the same time, and I have the scripts for both. And I think one of them was going to be found footage, but I think it was going to be Friday the 13th.
Okay. Makes sense.
So, which honestly, if that could be interesting. I know found footage is way overplayed, but sometimes it can still be good. And Friday the 13th might be an interesting one.
I heard they're making a new Friday the 13th, but they're focusing on like Jason Voorhees backstory.
Really?
I could have been right.
Friday the 13th has never been one that I was like super a big fan of.
Really?
For me, like, I don't like it when it goes supernatural. Like my slasher movies and stuff, I like it a little more. Like Halloween for the most part. There's nothing supernatural about those first 2 movies, aside from the fact that he gets shot in both of his eyes and blown up in the second one.
And he falls off top of the house and gets up like 10 minutes later.
Yeah. But like other than that, it's like it's semi believable, you know. And like Scream I like it because it's just guys and it's like poking fun at the horror genre.
The best part of Scream is the fact that they pulled the sheet over your eyes and you thought that there was one killer when there was really 2, and that was the first movie that really fucking did that shit. And
Scream
was pretty smart with that.
So amazing even today, and I actually really like Scream 2 as well. I don't remember the third one very much. I only saw it once when it came out.
Yeah, the third one was it wasn't bad. The
fourth
one was actually
honestly, really great.
They weren't bad. I watched them all, and I would own them all.
I saw the fourth one for the first time like last year, and I thought it was really great. I thought it was fun. And I really liked Emma Roberts like beating the fuck out of herself at the end. I thought Scream 4 was really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean Halloween
again. But with that, everybody's been waiting for Neve Campbell to be the killer.
Yeah.
It's almost like Laurie, you know, like you get tormented long enough, you're gonna fucking turn.
Yeah.
And people forever have been talking about maybe it's gonna be this fucking Scream that Neve Campbell turns.
I wonder if they'll ever make another one.
I heard that they were.
Wes Craven, he died, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Carpenter, I get mixed up all the time.
No, Carpenter's still alive and kicking. He's actually gonna be helping Danny McBride.
Yeah, he's heavily involved with it.
Fucking awesome.
So yeah, I think that movie's gonna be great. This one, it had stuff that they really could have expanded out, and this could have been a great movie.
Yeah.
But as it is on paper, it's really sad.
No, like I said, the dude wearing a tap out shirt tried to put a movie together, and he sounded so bro-like. And
yeah, it's pretty rough.
He had good ideas, but
overall,
a reason why it was never made.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have anything else to say about the script?
No, I mean, if you're a Halloween fan, I'd recommend just reading it just for fucking fun. You know,
yeah, I mean, it's part of the history.
Right, right. And it's just cool to see somebody's take on what they would do. You know, it's still entertaining to say the least.
Yeah.
And yeah, I highly recommend reading up on the Danny McBride thing if you guys haven't heard about that, because does that
have a release date, like a year?
Like, I don't know, but you know what? This is another side note. But did you know that Glass is going to be coming out?
Yeah, which I haven't really talked about this on the podcast. We talk about it a lot in the back. I am not an M. Night Shyamalan fan.
No,
I think.
Did you like Unbreakable? Did you ever see it? No.
Have
you seen Split?
Not yet.
Split was fucking great.
I do want to see Split. I have not seen.
So good.
So the one movie I'll give him is The Sixth Sense. I didn't really like it when it came out, but for what that movie did and what it was, I'll give that one to him.
You know, I'm not even gonna lie. I liked Signs.
I fucking hated Signs
Really?
so much. Like a friend of mine brought it over. He's like, dude, this movie's so great. It's so scary. And like we're watching it and I'm just so bored. And then I thought it was so dumb when it was over. Like the common complaints about that movie, like the swing away and why you going to invade a planet where 70% of it would kill you. Like that kind of stuff really stuck out to me. And it's just like, I was so bored through most of it. Like it has a couple good moments, like when they're in the basement and like the arm reaching through, like that was a decent moment, and some stuff in the cornfield. I just don't think he's that good of a filmmaker. Like,
I will say Split made me reconsider what I fully thought of him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm going to give him a chance because I have to, because I fucking love Tales from the Crypt and he's the one doing it. So it's
I'm really worried about that. Tales from the Crypt is one of my favorite things in the world, and if he fucks that up, they put out a trailer that looked okay.
Thing was fucking cool, man. There's a lot of really cool visuals, and
I am a little confused because the trailer showed the Crypt Keeper, and everything has said that it's not going to have the Crypt Keeper. So I don't know if that was just to pull the people in.
The laugh and shit.
Or if they are going to change their mind and put in the Crypt Keeper.
No, I think he's gonna do it, but it's in his certain way. I don't know, but yeah, definitely check that out. Whatever you want to plug.
Well, do you want to plug Cryptic Closet? I know we always do when you're here.
As always. I got a horror apparel brand called the Cryptic Closet. We recently just did C2E2 this past weekend,
which seemed great for you guys. I stopped by your booth, and every time I came by, you had so many people there. You were in a really good area, like a lot of traffic coming through there.
And we sold a lot of like the fucking Reanimator shirts and then Alkaline Trejo and shit.
I love that.
But we're actually doing the next show after this will be Days of the Dead in Indianapolis.
And that's June?
That's June 29th, I want to say.
Yeah. I know it's around my birthday.
That last weekend going into July, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, because it goes into like July 1st or 2nd, something, right? Yeah.
And I mean, there's going to be Sid Haig, Bill Moseley,
you had the
George Romero,
you had
Sting.
the card there for the thing, the event, and it looked great. Like they had a lot of really good guests and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the next thing we're trying to do, if all goes well, I want to get on New York Comic Con.
Really? Yeah. That would be awesome.
Yeah, because it's the same people who do C2E2, and they got a whole
I was actually, so when we were at C2E2, I was waiting in line. I ended up making friends with a guy who was like working the line or whatever, and we were talking about that, and he's been doing C2E2 for like 3 years, and he was telling me how it's the same people that do New York, and some of them go and do that. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I know that one's in like October.
That would be awesome. I've always wanted to go to New York and LA Comic Con, although I know they're insane. But
yeah, you know what? And what I'll do is, if anybody ends up coming to any of these conventions and you've heard the Shelf podcast and know of the Cryptic Closet or Jeremy, feel free to come by, say what's up, and I'll throw you a free pin. I need to talk. Pin.
Which I love your pins. You gave me the Eric Draven one, which is fucking awesome. And that Get Out pin you have is really good.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you guys know and you want to say what's up, say, I've heard your podcast, the fucking Shelf podcast is awesome. I was listening to Halloween or whatever, whatever you want to say, even if it's just a simple hi, you'll walk away with the free pin. So
yeah. And if you like this podcast, being a horror fan, you've also done Resident Evil, and you did, what else did you do?
The Resident Evil, we did the Crow 2037.
Yeah, which was another Rob Zombie script.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna be doing what we did Wonka.
Wonka was a lot of fun.
This will be the fourth one.
Yeah, and we definitely you're my go-to for horror scripts, so we're definitely. I have a lot of horror. I just added 2 years worth of scripts onto my spreadsheet, so I definitely have some more stuff for you.
Good shit. Well,
but yeah, man, thanks for sitting me. And I mean, you can find Cryptic Closets also on Instagram, right?
Yep, Instagram. It's at the Cryptic Closet.
Yeah.
We have a Facebook. It's not as updated frequently.
Yeah.
It's like here and there. I have a couple shit. I'm trying to keep up with it a little more. And we do have a Twitter that I've been getting a little better at updating, and that's just at Cryptic Closet. There's no duh.
Yeah, which we just got an Instagram for the show, so you can now find Shelf Podcast on Instagram.
Oh, well, good shit. Well, I'll be following you guys.
Yeah. And then obviously we're on Twitter at Shelf Podcast. The Twitter and Instagram are the same. And again, you can email the show at shelffilmpodcast@gmail.com. And any questions, comments, tell us how much you love the Cryptic Closet stuff, because it's really great.
Or if there's a fucking awesome horror script that you think Jeremy might not have heard of yet, and you think it's something you'd want to hear us talk about, definitely send it.
Yeah, I do have some people that have been sending me scripts, and thank you to all those people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love interacting with everybody on Twitter and Instagram and all that. So be sure to check us out. And Vinny, thanks for sitting with me talking Halloween.
Thank you. Sorry we didn't get to do it last week, but I'm glad we got to do it this week.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of fun talking about this one. It was an interesting script, and I knew I was going to have fun.
Fuck yeah. All right,
man. Thanks a lot. Mm-hmm.